Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. Your number one stop for stellar reviews of volumes, arcs, or stories that us or yourselves choose. You can find us live every Wednesday on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch, and the replay on all podcast networks. Take a seat, get yourselves and your opinions ready, as it's time to join the herd. But first, please put your hands together for your hosts, Shane, Phil, Scott, and Martin, as they kick off this week's discussion.
Ahoy hoy, and welcome to this week's episode of the Nerd Herd Comic Book Club. It's my pick this week, and we are reading Once and Future Volume 3, The Parliament of Magpies from 2020 by Boom Studios. And Scott is hugging his hardcover there. What is that, the Absolute Edition?
This is the deluxe edition.
The deluxe edition. It is gorgeous.
Can we just pencil something in later? I'd also like to flex furthermore, but we'll tease that for later on.
Absolutely. If you're showing off more of your collection, I'm up for that.
Yeah.
So I am, as always, joined by my very own Knights of the Round Table. I've got Phil up here.
What's up, nerds?
Martin over there.
Evening all.
And Scott down here.
Hiya, guys.
Hello. How are we all doing this Wednesday evening?
Good, yeah.
Pretty good. Excited to talk about this. Very
So am I. So this is issues 13 to 18, written, of course, by Kieron Gillen, with art by
Gillen.
Dan Mora, colors by Tamara Bonvillain, letters by Ed Dukeshire. I'm terrible with names. Scott's the master of names. We all know this by now. Scott can just riddle them off like that, can't he? No matter how the spellings are, Scott gets it right every single time.
It's as if I practice. I don't know. Like
it is as if you practice. I need to start going on to Google Translate and just getting how to say the names properly. Let me give a quick synopsis. I am going to read off the back of the book this time because I unfortunately didn't have time to write my own. So Volume 3 starts like this. With Beowulf and Grendel vanquished, Gran, Duncan and Rose return their attention to Merlin. But in their path lies a cadre of legendary knights. As the three battle their way through new enemies, Merlin has all his pawns ready for the final play, a move on the Grail Castle to claim the prize for King Arthur and to send our world into chaos. So that's the synopsis for this book. Let me say a quick hello to everyone in the chat before we get started. We have, of course, first one in every single week. It's Liam, Funky Gibbons. Hi ho, hi Liam. Thanks for joining. We also have Aussie Aaron in. I'm not going to click on his comment as he's scoring the book, so we'll save that for later. Kevin is in, the one and only artist that does all the Nerd Herd art for this channel. He's amazing. Evening, chaps. Hi, Kev. And we have a special guest in the chat. It's Amy. Hello, Amy. She says, hi, everyone. I can't wait to see what you think of my favorite book. Well, now we all have to score it extra high because Amy's in the chat. We can't be mean to Amy, can we?
We can be mean to the book, just not DM me directly. Yes, is that okay?
Yeah, I mean, I would prefer that as well.
Okay, so, and I would prefer we come to Phil last then if he's got that attitude going into Volume 3 of this title. Let's start with Martin. Martin, what did you think of Volume 3? Is this your first time reading? Did you have to read Volumes 1 and 2 all together, or did you have a break?
No, I've read Volume 1 and 2 last time when you'd done Volume 2. So this was just a one-off for me. I didn't read back. I sort of watched bits of the show from last time to try and refresh my memory. But overall, I did enjoy this. But I did feel the previous volume was better. Sorry. I like the addition of some of the characters. I obviously love the artwork from Dan Mora, who doesn't. But overall, until the final act of this volume, I didn't feel this was as strong as the previous volume.
That's fair. Scott?
So good, right? Obviously, like Once and Future is really good. I'm feeling so much pressure because Amy's watching. Okay,
you have to like this, don't you?
No,
you have to like.
I'm allowed.
Amy's in the other room with a frying pan, getting ready to come running in.
If I could lock the door, I would. So this book Once and Future has got such an awesome place in my heart. It was one of like the very first series I ever picked up when I first started reading, during COVID and stuff like that. And it's just the whole like Arthurian legend kind of stuff. It's just amazing. Like I love myth, I like legends, and it's so cool. And yeah, it's just the fact that it keeps weaving in different stories from real stories that that we know in our lives, and I'm willing to talk about them later on. I have looked into them. I've read the background, so doing that gives me a bit more appreciation into what Kieron Gillen has done to weave these into the story. Really good. Obviously, the art is brilliantly on point as usual. Dan Mora smashes it out the park. What a guy! Man knows how to use a pen. Yeah, and I don't want to say too much right now because I want to talk about it all more later. But when we usually do a sequels monthly, we do a volume 2, and it's like, right, this is the character development volume. This was this volume. This was the volume 3, in my opinion. So the third volume was the character development arc, not the second volume as usual. But usually we see stories go in chunks of 3 volumes. We have the hook, we have the character development, we have the action-packed kind of ending of that arc. But I think because this story in total is only 30 issues, this is like the halfway point. So now this is a good point to set up those relationships, and then hopefully volume 4 and 5 will go more into the action-packed kind of thing. But yeah, we're just developing more in this, I think. But really good nonetheless.
Awesome. Phil, come on then. Bring us down.
Okay, so I have my score written down. So you guys have approximately 53 minutes to change my mind, for me to up my score. I did enjoy this, but so this whole sequels month, I've been reading everything from the start again and rereadings 1 and 2, whatever. And so this is the first time I read volume 3. I've read volume 1 3 times now, volume 2 twice, and this is the first time reading this. Volume 1 is clearly the best volume out of all, followed by number 2, and this is the worst of the 3. I'm not saying it's bad, but it is the worst of the 3. In terms of like character development, I agree to an extent. I mean, Bridgette is her normal charming self. Rose had a lot more to do in this book, but I actually thought Duncan was like pretty poor in this book. Like, he was always quite wimpy in the other 2 volumes, but he was able to like overcome that. And remember the second volume, he got like Excalibur and he had a ripped shirt and he's come out and to fight everyone. Like, he was cool, but he wasn't in this. So he was a bit of a letdown in that respect. I've mentioned before, I don't care for the Arthurian legend. It's just not something I've ever been interested in knowing. And I found myself reading this, like I was just taking it out of the story at times. Like I was reading an issue, I'm putting it down and going to make a cup of tea or, farting about for a bit. I didn't read this straight through. It didn't grip me like the other volumes did. But I still liked it. And Dan Mora he's fantastic. And Tamara Bonvillain, who has the greatest name in comics, as we know. Like the 2 of them it's like Daniel Warren Johnson and Mike Spicer. Like them 2 belong together. They were fantastic. But yeah, sorry, Amy. Like, I'm not dissing the book. I do like it. It's just this is the weakest of the 3. However, as Martin alluded to, the end of this book, it does get you excited for what's going to, go forward, and hopefully it recaptures my enjoyment for it. But what I will say, just to add to that, sorry, the first time I read volume 1, I wasn't too enamored with it, and then I changed my mind.
And then he grew up.
Yeah, exactly. Then I grew up. So now that I've read that 3 times, maybe if I read this another 2 times, I'll change my mind.
Yeah. Well, so just so people know, everyone who's watching, everyone who's listening, just so they're aware, volume 1 in total, we gave it 6.6. Volume 2 in total, unjustified. Like that's a crime in itself. Volume 2, we gave it 7.3. So the series average so far is a 7. If you were listening and watching last week, you would have seen that we bumped it off the top 10 leaderboard for the sequels leaderboard, but we're hoping we can get it back on today. So yeah, sorry. Carry on, Shane. I just wanted to get that in.
I just wanted to ask Phil a question. So he says he's not a fan of the Arthurian legend and stuff. Like, would you prefer this book if it had been like fairy tales rather than that sort of thing? Like, had they been living fairy tales rather? Would that have been something more? Because like, what could this do? Like, this has to have the premise of the stories. So what kind of stories would you want it to be taking on?
Wrestling.
Heels versus baby faces.
Hulk Hogan.
Real stories now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, whoa. Controversial. No, I don't know. I'll say I get, this book is told through the stories and they become the characters or whatever, and they tell the story that way. And that's cool. I like that. But like, there's like what I know of King Arthur and Merlin is from the Disney movie, The Sword and the Stone, and from the movie that came out about 20 years ago. I can't think who the English actor's called, but I think you know who I'm talking about. He played King Arthur. Keira Knightley was in it. That movie. That's all I know about King Arthur. And this kind of debunks anything I know. Like, it mentions the fact that King Arthur and Merlin weren't even at the same time. Like, I knew there were enemies within the refrain. Like, I don't understand where we're at with it. And I know you don't need to know it as such. I just feel like when it tells you things about that story, I kind of get a wee bit flustered maybe in my reading, get a wee bit lost. And
you got to remember this is a twist on that legend. This isn't. It's the same characters, but it's a twist on it. So.
Yeah, I know it's obviously telling the story, but it's just like when it tries to add some details in that are not accurate, but are more fairly accurate to the story and legend. I don't get it. It's not something I kind of cling on to. But I'm not dissing it. It's okay. But as the purpose of the story, this is the worst of the 3 volumes. Easy.
See, it sounds mean to say that, but I do agree that this is the lowest quality. I don't want to use the word worst because
worst is tough. That's a tough word.
This isn't Klaus, okay? This didn't drop off a cliff after volume 1. This is a fantastic universe with great characters. This is the lowest quality one out of the 3, if you like to say it as nicely as you can. But that's not saying it's bad. This isn't a bad book in any way, shape, or form. I mean, obviously, we're going to get to the pages because we're going to rush through that because it's Dan Mora. We're all going to gush over him. There's no point in dragging that out. So we all know how good the art is in this book. But the story itself, like the idea, the premise, the characters, they all work so well. And yes, I love Duncan. From volume 1, I absolutely fell for the character of Duncan. I thought he was great, just thrown into this world that he knew nothing about because of his grandmother, and just learning to live with it. I thought it was great. And in this volume, I felt like he was so underused, and they spent more time with Rose and with Bridgette and with Nimue. And, I was like, yes, I know they're branching out, and I know this isn't called Duncan's Adventures in, wherever they're from. It's called Once and Future, so it can be about any character. I get that, but I want more Duncan. I always want more Duncan in the book, and I feel like they did acknowledge why he's a bit more wimpy in this book, because Bridgette does say that when you're fighting monsters, the story allows you to be a little bit more heroic and a little bit more powerful, which I thought was a nice little nod. But yeah, I do agree that this is the lesser of the 3. I will say that. I think that's what I will.
It depends what you want out of it. Like, I just assume you guys, Shane, you've grown up superheroes, right? You love that. You like action, and so I feel like that's what you look for in a book, and that's what makes this for you lesser, because there's not enough action in there.
I think that's only because I know what the book can do because of volumes 1 and 2. Had it started like this, then I would assume that this is how the book progresses. But I know that they can do so much more with volumes 1 and 2, action-wise.
That's where I'm at too. Like, it's not.
Why? Why does it all have to just? Why is action the only metric? Why can't it be storytelling? Why can't it be ability to inject real Arthurian stories into this and able to weave it into its own story? Why can't it be character development?
It 100% can. But if you start at 100 and then pull back to 10 and then push back to 50, you're juddering as a reader. You're back and forth. You don't know where you're at. If you had a base level where it was, it starts off with a little bit of action, then you get some story, then you get some action, then you get some story. If it's a nice flow to the story, then you're able to assess where you are in the story and what's coming next. And you get that anticipation. You get to look forward to it. You're like, right, Bridget's telling Duncan all about the story. So now we're going to get some action. And then you get the action and you're like, right, now we're going to find out a bit more about these characters. But when you just bring it to a halt for so much of the book, I think it works fine in a trade. But if I was reading this weekly, I think like Phil, I would have dropped off and I would have read one issue and then waited and then read another issue and waited. I don't think I would have been too excited to read this monthly as I would for the first 12 issues. I think I would have been excited for the next one to come out.
Yeah, and as for like the action and stuff, like because the previous volumes did give us that, and we got some action here, of course we did, but like Shane's saying, when you expect something and you don't kind of get it to the same extent, it's not, again, it's a bad book. It's not, you're not having the same feelings towards it. And as for like the storytelling, like I was getting really frustrated with the storytelling because Mary or Elaine or Nimue or Nimrod or whatever the feck her name is, like I just like you get this impression she's going to be nice with Duncan and turn sides, and then she doesn't turn sides, and then you get the impression that the whole family dynamic is just really cold. The fact that Bridget raised her daughter, killed her own husband, or shot her husband in the doodah, and then like it's not a family dynamic. They're not going to love each other, but yet she obviously cares for Duncan. But then does she really, or is she only raising Duncan to do this type of thing? And so this whole thing hasn't really progressed any further because I still don't know where Mary, Elaine, and Nimue are, like where she is in it. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like I don't think she's one further along, and that was one of the things that I quite liked about the previous volumes. She's going to turn at some point, save Duncan or do something, whatever. But that just hasn't quite happened. And I don't know. I just feel like I'm dogging on the book. It's not. I like it. It's not bad. But there are
dogging on the book.
Yeah, there's just
we'll get to positives in a sec with the art.
Yeah,
I mean, then we'll all just start gushing.
Yeah. Let's move on to that. You're right, because you can't. Yeah. You cannot. Okay, I do have one negative thing about the art. I should say that actually. There were some scenes in the art where I was looking at thinking, what is actually going on? Like they're busting through the walls or through the windows, and you just see a lot of color, and it looks really good. I just don't know what it is I'm looking at times. That's the only negative, but it still looks pretty. You
just said busting through the walls, busting through the windows. You could tell.
I know, but like you don't see the people. You just see like shapes and colors and whatever else. And but yeah,
well, it does feel a little bit like you're dogging this book, Phil.
Yeah.
No, I need to say nice things. This is a lovely book, and here I'll say nice things. So I have the hardcover as well, and it's signed by Kieron Gillen. With a little.
He's going to come and take that back now. I'm going to
sword in the stone. I felt pressure.
Come around, knock on your door, and take it back off you. You don't deserve it, Phil.
I know. Not my money. He doesn't care.
Amy does say, as someone who loves history and loves myths and legend, someone like me will be more connected to the book, and she does agree it's not for everyone. See, that's how you navigate between people who love the book, like us, and then people like Phil. You just say it's not for everyone. Stop talking, Phil.
People like Phil. I'm not saying it's bad. It's just I'm not on the same camp with you guys.
That's fair.
Thing is, I like this. I'll class this as fantasy because I'm not the biggest lover of fantasy. I'm more of a sci-fi guy. But to read something that is fantasy and it draw me in, I class as a bit of a win. So this does drag me in. I like this. I think the whole Knights of the Round Table myth is great. That part of it, I don't agree with Phil on a little bit. I did enjoy this for that history side of things.
Yeah, well, it's done so well. I mean, and I still, I think I've said it before, I want the Young Adventures of Bridgette. I really want
Oh yeah.
to see
Oh,
how badass she was when she could like run and jump and kick and like
That's
proper
bound to be a
in her
spin-off
youth.
down the line. That's a spin-off
Gotta
down
be,
the line,
hasn't it?
100%. Yeah.
Shall we get into our pages?
yeah.
Let's see,
Yeah,
shall
yeah,
we?
yeah.
What we got? Who shall we start with? I'll just go in order of who uploaded first, should I? Sorry about that. I just clicked the wrong thing. I'll just click what I want. I'm the host. I can click what I want, Martin. Leave me alone. My page first, then. So I picked this page. I'm a sucker for facial expressions, and I love Nimue's facial expression in this. But not only that, the Lancelot, it was Lancelot, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The fact that he was like made of water, and he had like fish and seaweed and like things in him moving around, I thought was awesome. The way he moves. And then you've got Galahad, who's now a centaur with like rotten maggots falling out of him. Like, who comes up with this? I mean, obviously Dan Mora, but like, who comes up with this sort of thing? They just look awesome. Like this panel down here, just the motion in that just got me. And that I think that's the single panel that just made me pick this page. Just awesome.
Do you not think Lancelot looks a wee bit like Miguel O'Hara, Spider-Man 2099? It looks like a Power Ranger or something, you know. It doesn't. Yeah.
Like Guyver.
But yeah,
A little bit.
this was actually my pick as well. Not just the whole thing, the action, the kind of the weapons at the top panel, the detail on that was really class. The bullets, it's a really good page, class page.
Thank you. And if Phil was going to pick it, that means it was a good page. See, so I win page picks this week. Martin's next. There he is.
I've picked Lancelot. I like the simplicity look of this character, but also what's going on inside him. Same as what you said before, Shane. I love that he's like a fishbowl. It's weird, but he does look really cool. There's not. It's putting it in words, isn't it? It's just he's got a simple look. He's all blue with different color textures of blue, but when you give that little deeper look to him, he's got more to it. And I thought he looked like a menacing character as well. It's a nice twist on the character. Dan Mora knows how to draw a character.
He's quite fish-like, isn't he? Like he's got the little fins on the side of his legs, and he's got little, I don't know, web bits where his armpits are, and things like that.
I think that's why Phil said Miguel from Spider-Man 2099.
Yeah.
What the underarm?
Why is he fish-like? Did I miss something? Like, why is he like that?
Don't know.
I assumed because that's where you get the sword from the lady in the lake. Nimue is the lady in the lake, so she maybe made him out of the energy from the sword. It's not explained, but I mean, it doesn't have to when you make a character that looks that cool. Leave it up to the reader's imagination. They'll always come up with something better. Scott, you ready for your page?
Let's go. Oh, yeah. Trigger warning, I guess. No, it's fine. So this is like issue 1. This is like page 4 or something like that. It's really early on. And it's like you have all the creepy magpies lining up, you know, one for sorrow, 1 for joy, 2 for love, 3, 4 for a boy, whatever.
1 for sorrow, 2 for joy, 3 for a girl, 4 for a boy, 5 for silver, 6 for gold, 7 for a secret never to be told.
Yeah.
How do you not know that?
Because I don't know.
How do you remember that?
Because I suck. Yeah. But this was so like creepy for me. It was like, you know, at this point Bridgette had like shot 4 of the magpies away, and there was only 2 left. And she's like, well, I guess it's joy then. And then the first magpie just rips the other magpie's throat out and just goes, sorrow. You know? I'm like, Jesus, like there's one way to creep me out at the start of the story, honestly. And it's just still there, and there's just blood everywhere, and it just doesn't care, and it just goes, sorrow. And that's it. But man, it just freaked me out.
I just love Bridgette's face, how she just does not care. It's just not bothering her. Like a normal person would be like, what am I looking at? And she's just like, guess it's Tuesday.
Yep. But yeah, that's it.
Scott was saying this was a really good opening to the story. Because like I say, the page before that, there were 6 and she shot the 4. And I was like, this is madness, and then obviously this part is really freaky.
Yeah.
And yeah, good pick.
The detail in the bird's eyes as well is fantastic. Like the glare and the shine.
Ooh, shiny.
Phil, your page.
Yeah, well, I mean, Shane picked my pick, and then Scott picked the next one. So I just thought I'd pick this because the facial expressions, and we talk about it quite often about faces, and like Dan Mora going to do a good face. You know, that's the reason why it's here. Those three faces, obviously there's two people, but there's three faces. They all look really good, really detailed, but like even the background, like nice and soft. It just, you know, it's just, this might sound weird. The reason why I actually quite like this page, because see the gun, when you're looking at the gun from this perspective, it just looks really symmetrical and straight, if you know what I'm trying to say. Like it's not crooked, it's just really nice and clean. And that, for some reason, that stood out for me as well. And that's the reason. I mean, Dan Mora, as I've said before, you could probably pick 99% of any of these pages from this book, and we could talk about them because they're so good. But I really like Elaine, Mary, Nimrod. I think she's cool.
Nimrod.
Just get to where you're going quickly.
Is that an X-Men villain, Nimrod?
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
This page was a really important page for Mary herself, because this kind of, you know, after this point, it flashes back, you know, it shows the burns on her chest. It flashes back to when she first got them and why she got them. And it was her calling Lancelot. So, you know, by boiling herself essentially for Lancelot to save her, and then have
the sex.
The sex, and then have the baby. So yeah, it was cool. It was a good start to go, what happened there, and then instantly we go to a flashback.
Yeah, it's cool.
I just love that face there. Just the expression is just amazing. We have some pages sent in this week. So we have Kevin's page. Do we have a reason for Kevin's pick?
Yes, sir. Here we go. So Kev has said, here's my page pick. There it is. This is of the Green Knight, after he's just been shot through the stomach, and he like slices an arm off, slices someone's guts open, and then just looks so menacingly in the bottom corner there. And he goes, here's my page pick. I really like the action and movement in this page, and the close-up of the Green Knight's face in the last panel really shows how insane he is. Also, the colors are great. That's
This
it.
is a really like Greg Capullo-esque page for me. There's a lot.
Joker who it's Batman who laughs, isn't it?
That's what I'm thinking. It's 100%, and it's just like, I mean, I love Greg Capullo and I love Dan Mora, and they both have like their unique style. But this is like, and Greg Capullo being the more like the veteran artist, I should say. This is cool. Dan Mora.
Let's not forget the colors. Okay, Tamara Bonvillain is amazing at the color green, right? And I've really noticed this. If you read Proctor Valley Road as well, she colors for that green as well. She's really good at green. I don't know why. But her more notable color. Must be, mate. Yeah, must be Irish.
She's also really good at light. Like he looks like the colors look like they are bright and light. Like around his neck, it looks like a light. Like I don't know how colorists do that, but I am very impressed every time I read a comic and I see something that's meant to be a light and it looks like a light. I know that's a silly little thing to be impressed by, but I really am. Amy has also sent a paging, shockingly. Amy, do we have a reason for Amy's page?
Yes. So this, when was this? About the fourth issue in? So what was that? Issue 16, I think it was, maybe 17. King Arthur is sitting on like this flowery throne, and it's kind of growing through him, and he's getting weaker and weaker, waiting for the story to continue, waiting for his story to continue. And you've got Merlin at the bottom doing some sort of weird blood magic. Amy has said the coloring is fantastic, and we see how much power Merlin has, but not everything is going to plan. King Arthur looks so lost and defeated, and you never think that when you hear of King Arthur. So I guess she's talking about the kind of juxtaposition of how we depict King Arthur, like this massively awesome, strong individual, you know, a ruler of a land. But he's just sitting here, just limp in his throne. And it's really good.
Like
It is
Fitz
a good
Kieron
page.
when he's rotting away.
Mm.
Yeah. And we have one more page from Liam, the Funky Gibbons. Did Liam give a reason?
Yes, he did. So this page is also from the Green Knight scene. I think this is later on, just when Rose throws like an axe into his face, and then he like you think he's down, and all of a sudden, whoosh, stands back up or sits back up, saying, well swung, well, whatever it was, and then just carries on about his day. Lee said, so hard to choose a page from a book full of colourful and amazing art. I went with this one because I love Duncan's reaction to the Green Knight doing an Undertaker, brackets, wrestling fans will appreciate that reference, and then the maniacal look of the Green Knight in the end panel, which mirrors the first panel of the previous page, is just brilliant.
Yeah. And that was a really good scene. The bar scene. I mean, what better way to start than by throwing the head of a Nazi into a group of people and then going in and killing them all? I mean, who doesn't enjoy a scene like that?
Yeah.
Was it necessary though?
We won't know yet until we read on, but it gives us an opportunity to see how Rose gets interjected into. Like, this is now a separate story for Rose. This is the story of the Green Knight, nothing to do with King Arthur. And this is the stuff I want to start getting into, like the stories that are involved in this story, I guess, if you wouldn't mind.
No.
No?
So anyway.
So the Green Knight, I won't keep you long. It's very similar to what happens in this. This knight comes along into this kingdom and literally goes, "Who wants to fight me?" Essentially, and everyone thinks, oh, haha, very funny. And then this one guy just goes, "You know what? Yeah, I'll fight you." And I know they say the character's name in this story, but I can't remember what it is. But
Gawain or Gawain or something.
Oh, Gawain.
Gawain.
Yeah. So that happens. So he goes, yeah, fine, I'll do it. So he goes, okay, you're allowed to chop off my head. He was like, right, okay, fine. He chops off. He goes, oh, fine, okay, chops off his head, done, right? But then the Green Knight just picks up his own head and just kind of goes, cool, all right. Now the kind of game has started. I'll see you in a year and a day. And also, this all happens on New Year's Eve, which also happens in New Year's Eve in the story. So that's how it's all kind of represented in this book. It's all pretty much similar, but instead of having the head chopped off, it's just a head to the face, an axe to the face instead. Which was.
And so, does he come back and kill the guy, or does the guy kill him again? You have to tell us the rest of the story now.
That would spoil things for Rose.
Yeah, we're going to spoil things down the line.
It's up to you. You keep talking, and I'll refresh myself.
When you were describing that story, all I could see was the Black Knight from Monty Python. "'Tis but a flesh wound." When he just picks up his head. I've got better.
I googled this story as well after, and I googled the name of the knight, and maybe I say it's not the same knight or whatever, but I didn't look at my results too much, but I think that knight is part of Arthur's round table type of thing. So I don't know if he's one of his knights as well. Maybe that's why the story is linked for this book. I don't know. But if it's not linked, then why is it? Do you know what I mean? Like, why include it type of thing? If it's linked to Arthur, great. If it's not, I don't know. I like it for Rose. I think Rose is a really cool character, and now we have to look forward to the next year when she is going to have the return fight, the return battle, and how's she going to cope with that? Because she's not going to survive that, surely.
Duncan's going to step in, isn't he?
He's got to. Amy agrees with me. The Green Knight always reminds her of the Black Knight in Monty Python as well. And Connie says, "Don't mind me. Forgot to read it." So hi, Connie. Thanks for joining. But she's forgot to read. She forgot to read the book. So obviously we're all a fan of the art. So we've gushed over Dan Mora. I mean, every time we have a Dan Mora book on, that's all we do because he's fantastic. We don't find any flaws in his artwork. So how about the story then? I think we'll go with the writing as well as the overarching story, because I know Phil's not a major fan of the overall story. But how are you with the writing in the book?
Yeah, grand. I think everything's quite. I say Bridgette has something to say for everything, and if something goes awry, she kind of talks to herself, or she explains where we're going, type of thing. So it just moves along really nicely and smooth and fast, whatever else. And the whole Merlin thing irked me slightly. I don't really know how to take him, because again, I thought Merlin was a good guy, and he very much is not a good guy, and he's pulling the strings. But he's also, could be wrong, is he doing his own thing where he's playing Arthur as well as playing Nimue, as well as playing the rest? Like, is he the one in control? If you know what I'm trying to say, he's the one scheming.
He is definitely pulling the strings.
Yeah, so like, that's some sense. So he's not working with Arthur or such. He's there. So I quite like Merlin, but at the same time, I don't, because I don't think we're not meant to. If you know what I mean. But yeah, the writing wise, it's I had no problems with the way it flowed. It was grand. It was just the some elements of the story I could leave it, but I like the overall, idea and where it's going. Like I say, I was disappointed with Duncan. I get what you're saying in terms of, like, in the previous volumes, the stories allowed Duncan to do more, but I just felt like it gave him something more to do here. Like, even when he's like on the dragon, he comes across a wee bit dumb, like, in terms of like not really reading the situation correctly. Like, I forget what he said in the dragon. Even Rose was taking the piss out of him. Do you know what I'm trying to say? Like, he was a very easy target.
It was like, can you make it breathe fire? And she's like, oh yes, let me just press the breathe fire button.
Yeah, like, he's just come across like a bit of a, I don't know, a bit of a plonker, and I don't like that, because I really like Duncan.
He felt almost irrelevant in this volume.
A little bit, yeah.
That's the bit that bothered me the most with the writing of him. He was there for the sake of being there, but he started so high in the first two volumes, and then to basically become a sort of a B-C list character in this volume was a little bit jarring. I never had no major issue with the writing. I know you said about Merlin. I like Merlin because he gave me the vibe of Jafar from Aladdin, where he's sort of like, the magical sort of wormy schemes behind the scenes sort of thing. Acting loyal, but actually not. So,
yeah,
strange reference, but yeah, it gave me Jafar vibes. So yeah, it was good.
Scott,
you've got to admire Kieron Gillen's ability to grab loads of different stories and slightly try to interweave them. He's making the story more complicated, which I feel like could make some readers frustrated at this point. But given what I've read from him in the past, like, I've read all of The Wicked and the Divine, and that's a very, like, weavy in and outy, tricky, complicated story. But he does so well with it. I have all the faith in him being able to kind of untangle these stories that he's kind of woven into this. It's feeling very like, a big mess, a big messy ball of string. But I have a lot of faith that he will do it. My favorite parts of this was learning more about Mary, seeing a bit more into her personality and her motivations, and what she'll do for Duncan and Percy. Is that that's his name.
Galahad.
Yeah, Galahad. And what she'll do for both of those children, even though they're like completely different and kind of against each other. And it's just kind of like, where will she go? So she's the main focus for me, like why I'm reading this book, is I want to see what happens to her and how she reacts to her two boys if they ever do come, bumping heads together in the future. And then, it's just the whole bringing real Arthurian stories into this book as well. And you got the dragon, that's from his own story as well, from an Aesop's fables called The Fox and the Dragon. I'll talk about that more later if you want. And I'm just enjoying it. I mean, I don't care that Duncan wasn't the main focus in this. You can tell he will be the main focus down the line. But again, this is just a stepping stone for this story as a whole. And I think I can acknowledge that, and I I'm really looking forward to seeing what happens. But this was a good thing. It's just given me a lot of background knowledge on all these characters and what could happen next. I can't wait.
Yeah, like I agree. Like this, because we had the progression of some characters, it gives you better groundwork, better foundation going forward, so they can get more out of the overall story. I agree with that. And like I say, if Duncan was the front of the story type of thing, maybe that would delay others in their progression. I agree with the Mary stuff too. Like I really want her to kind of have that conflict because it's her two boys, but then through all 3 volumes, like the whole family are cold with one another. They're not a lovely family. They're not like, so then is she going to be like that, have these feelings for Duncan, who she hasn't seen in, 20 years, and she only had him because she wanted what is it?
She had Duncan first, didn't she?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then she wanted Galahad then to be a more perfect whatever it was.
Because I think as well, like Parzival, isn't he? He's Parzival. Yeah.
I think as well, like it was always inevitable that the government would somehow get involved, because of the previous volumes. Again, with the cop, we had the Hot Fuzz, of course, coming in and getting slaughtered. I loved that page. I know Shane, you weren't a fan, but I loved that.
I did as well.
So it was inevitable that they were going to come into it at some stage, and I like the way it was Boris. It was Boris Johnson who gets decapitated at the end.
Yeah,
if only. But it was inevitable, somewhat not predictable, but like you knew it was going to happen at some point. But I also think sometimes when the government agencies get involved in stories like this, it's very different. Like you have this magical stuff, whatever, and then you have this kind of like, again, governmental, departmental, whatever, and it's 2 different kind of takes on the story. But I did quite like that guy who, Templesmith or Templemore, or what was his name?
The main person,
the guy who was dragged out at the end.
Hempleton.
So yeah,
that sounds about right.
Quite liked him. It's like no questions, and then he's
Hempleworth.
Hempleworth,
Jason Hempleworth.
Sir Jason Hempleworth.
Yes, sorry, yeah.
So that's what I mean. So he's a knight. So and he's Bors, obviously. That's the reference was he was Bors. So they had Bors, Percival, and Galahad in the Grail Castle, which they needed. So I like that. No.
Jason Hempleworth wasn't Bors.
Oh no,
Boris was Bors. Because that was the closest they could get to Bors. Boris.
Okay, that's what I thought, and I thought, is that too obvious?
No.
Bors and Boris.
That's exactly what it is. Yeah.
Okay, there we go. So I thought because they not mentioned the 3 of them were in the Grail Castle.
Yeah, Lancelot.
No, so like they needed the 3 of them to be involved in the story.
Okay.
But they didn't need to be in the castle.
Okay.
Just Merlin.
So wasn't that Galahad, Lancelot, and Parzival? Or Percival? Were they the 3?
No. You only needed, you had. Shit.
Put you on the spot now. So it feels right. He did mention all 3 being together. Are they the 3?
No, it's not that they were together. It's just they existed in the story in the present time. So Bors was like the 3rd piece of this puzzle.
That only came to head then when he was told by the other soldier guy.
Yeah.
Then? Okay.
Yeah.
Right. That's fair. That's great.
See, I really like that. I really like the government part of it where they know about this, they know how stories work, and they've been keeping it secret this whole time, because if too many people know about them, then everyone could get involved, and then the whole world pretty much just comes to an end if everyone is just getting dragged into story after story after story because they know about it. I mean, and that's what's obviously coming, because he does a live press release at the end, doesn't he, when he takes the Prime Minister's head.
Oh yeah.
So now everyone who was watching, I mean, it depends. If it was on BBC, it'll only get like 5 people, but if it was on Sky News,
they said it was on. They said it was on multiple TV channels.
Every channel, yeah. They tried to change the channel, didn't they?
So it was on Sky News.
Yeah, so to get at least 100 people will be involved in the next volume. Then should have put it on YouTube. They'd have got much more. But I think that's going to be a really interesting next volume then, with everyone just having the opportunity to be part of a story without even
Yeah.
wanting to or knowing what the story is.
See,
Like,
on that, I
This
think
is
you're
the
right.
action.
But I also like the idea that and again, in the first volumes, they would phone up the contact from the government and say, you know, get your police to stand back certain whatever distance. And even when the police were going to arrest them, they were called in, nope, leave them be there, whatever. So like the instruction or whatever they refer, I can't remember what they called it, like, predates everything essentially. It goes back to medieval times, whatever else. I quite like that, stays like that at the same time. That there's no real reason to know. You just know it exists and you have to obey by these kind of laws, so to speak. So yes, obviously the story they had to kind of tell the world, and obviously all, you know, hell breaks loose with Arthur back in some form now. But I did quite like the idea that like they're like obeying rules that no one has any reason other than faith. You have to have faith that these rules should be adhered to, and that's it. But now it's like, no, we have to, because here's why. Here is King Arthur, here's Merlin, here's this, whatever. So it's interesting going forward, but like I say, that end of this volume sets it up perfectly and gets you excited to read on. And if it didn't end this way, I would struggle, I think, to read on.
It's now showing that like this story is so big now, it's so out of control. Like, you know, Bridgette's job is to keep it contained, get rid of the threat, you know, go about your day, innit? And just don't tell as little people as possible. But now it's just widespread. It's just cataclysmic, and you see like King Arthur in like his Frieza final form from Dragon Ball, like, and he's just gone full Super Saiyan. Here he is in his full strength, and he's like, "I am here. I am your king. This is my land. You know, let's go." And it's such a great ending, but it's also like such a good cliffhanger that I'm annoyed at it, you know. And it's like, why? Just give me another issue in this hardcover. Give me another issue in this volume. Like, I just wanted this one more. I want to see, like, I don't want the next issue to be the next day. I want it to be like 2 years in the future. You know,
and
I want it to
everyone's
be
dealing with the stories.
Yeah, I want apocalypse. You know, we've had the once. Now I want the future. You know, and I'm like, I just really hope that happens.
How far ahead have you read?
I've not. This is it.
Oh, it's not? Okay.
Yeah, because I know eventually we were going to read it for this.
Yeah. Well, I thought you had read on. So that's why I was like, he's describing what he thought at the time you read this initially.
No,
but yeah,
right now, yeah,
cool.
Because I know we've said with this particular, sorry, Shane, I know we've said before with this particular hardcover, because this is quite a thick hardcover, isn't it? Compared to what's actually left of the story, is going to be a thin one next time. You can really see why it ended here, because it leaves it on the place where I will desperately want to read beyond this and either get that next hardcover. And I feel like this next hardcover, regardless of how large it is, it's going to be the magnum opus of this series. I hope, you know, it's going to be that what we've been waiting for, that big hit.
The next hardcover is only going to be 12 issues, because that's it. The story is 30 issues long. This book has got 18, 12 more issues done. I don't know how true this is, but I was looking on Reddit like a couple of weeks ago because I really want the next book, and someone said like, "Oh, I emailed Boom Studios to see like when is the next deluxe book coming out for this," and the reply was August 2024. So this may just be some random guy in the comments just making something up, or it could be real. So take that as you will. We could be waiting another year for this deluxe to come out. It may be sooner. Who knows?
So now that you know that, are you going to wait till next year?
Yeah.
Or do you want to buy like the trade paperbacks to read them? No.
I'll wait.
Do you think it might be better reading it in that hardcover? Those full 12 issues, just hammer through those 12 issues. I think you're going to enjoy that more.
Yeah.
It's like what you're saying. Like, we're now in the final stretch. This is it. This is the finale, the final act.
Yeah.
So if you break it up with another volume, and then like we may read volume 4 next week, because I think it may be suggested in the Herd's Choice, who knows, and then we'll have no choice but to read it. But ideally, next year, hardcover, 12 issues, bang, get it done, and like I say, it's the final act, like in any movie that you want to stay for the end. So yeah, look forward to it.
Speaking of hardcovers, Highland G says, "Hi guys, read this a while back in hardcover. Enjoyed the story, but let's be honest and admit we bought it for Mora's art." I mean, yeah, it's kind of true, isn't it?
It is the selling point.
Most people are going to pick this up just for the art. But Amy does say she's read the whole thing, and you need to read on to find out it is class.
Ooh.
So Amy approves of the next 12 issues of this. So we will have to read it at some point. It is Herd's Choice next week. So if you are listening along or watching along live, you can pop your choice in the chat and we will add it to the wheel and hopefully pick it and we will read it for next week. And you don't have to pick a sequel. It would be nice to continue this sequels wave. But if you have a completely different book you want us to read, pop it in and we will put it on the wheel and we might be able to read your choice. Since we have to do that, shall we get to the final thoughts and scores now? And then that will give us time to do the wheel before we leave. Yes? So if you've read along, please pop your scores in the chat and we will obviously add them to ours so we can get an overall total for this book, as we always do. Martin, would you like to go first on this one?
Yeah, go on. I'll try and keep it short because obviously we need to do those choices. But I did enjoy this arc, despite a few issues that we have raised throughout the discussion. I think this particular story suffers from something that we've brought up before, is that when you release these books in these deluxe hardcovers, I feel like that's the format to read it. And I feel like this story would benefit more and get a higher score from me personally if it was read in one big, long 18-issue read. But when you break it down into volumes, you can't help but nitpick on the little things that you do notice. But for me, the artwork, I won't spend too much time on that. Fantastic as always. Dan Mora knocks it out of the park every time, no matter what he does. The story was well written. I did enjoy it. I don't mind having this sort of story-based filler as opposed to the action. You've got to have that with a story, with the depth, the lore of what you get. I'm not going to score it. I was going to go lower than what I scored Volume 2, but you know what? After our discussion, I'm going to give it the same as what I gave Volume 2. So I'm going to go in at a 7.
7. Nice. Phil?
So I've actually raised my score slightly from where I written down because you had.
And it only took us 43 minutes instead of 53.
Yeah, well, do I go back down again?
No.
So I did like it, and I'll be honest, I can't even remember what I scored 1 and 2. I know the score for Volume 1 was lower, and people were shocked at it, but it was I can't remember what it was. I did like this story, and I think what's the way Scott was trying to explain, like you're getting more from other characters that are laying the groundwork for the final run, the final story and how things are going to wrap up, and that is true. Like for runs that are 30 issues, you kind of need that. You can't just keep going as you are, so to speak, because then at some point you're going to run out of ideas and won't finish strongly. So I think this arc of this volume has built it up so it will finish strongly. We just hope it delivers. The art is, as Highland G mentioned, like if you like the story, that's grand, but the art will always be a bit more superior than the story in my mind. That's not a knock on the story. I think that's just saying that Dan Moore's art's fantastic. I really enjoy it. Really like Bridgette. Really like Rose. Conflicted with Mary and Elaine and Nimue, but I'm getting there with her. I want to see what she does. I'm intrigued by it. This arc left it up to look forward to it. So I was 6.5, but I'm going to go up to a 7. I think a 7's okay. I think nice. A 7's a fair score.
Yeah, I'm with you there.
Sounds a lot better than 6.5. Scott?
What else new can I say, to be honest? Again, like I don't believe in the fact that like action is like the be all and end all of a good story. I mean, we've read plenty of stuff, and I've read plenty of stuff like Off the Hood, like Many Deaths of Layla Starr. Nothing action in there. One of my favorite books ever. So I can't like rate it on that. Like this kept me engaged. I don't do history, okay? I don't care about this kind of stuff. But this story makes me so interested that I wanted to Google and learn about Arthurian legends, or Arthurian myths. there's something there. There's something really attractive and gripping about this story, and these characters are amazing. The art makes it even more impactful and eye-catching and attractive. And, it's a totally different vibe to the other two volumes. I think action-wise, Volume 2 is still my favorite with Beowulf and stuff like that. That was amazing. But this is just a totally different thing. But I think it's still, if you consider all of the different aspects that make a book, a story, then it still like levels out, in my opinion, to Volume 2 just for different reasons. For me, like I said, this is a story that's been close to my heart since the very first time I started reading books. It's an 8.5.
Nice. We'll give the chat a few more minutes to put their scores in and their picks for next week. So for me, I mean, flawless art, amazing world building, great characters. It's everything I want in a book. I have so much goodwill. This book, this is Volumes 1, gave me like just so much goodwill for this whole title that I'm probably scoring this based on that goodwill as well, because I didn't have as much fun reading this as I did the first two volumes, but that's not saying it's a bad book. It's not. It just means Volumes 1 and 2 were better. That doesn't mean this is bad. It just means I liked 1 and 2 better. That's all I'm saying. So I don't want that to come across as a negative. But this is a great world that I really want to continue reading. And then when it finishes after issue 30 and they do the young adventures or the misadventures of Miss Bridgette, I will gladly read on because I want to see what she was like as a teenager or 20-something. I want to see that. So for me, I'm going to give this a 7.5.
Nice. Okay.
We have some scores in the chat, do we not?
Yes, we do. Do you want to go through
one? How far back do I have to go?
Okay, that's fine. I've got them all.
Sorry, I didn't go far enough back in the chat.
Okay, I know. Right. So we had a provisional score from Amy right at the very beginning. She said this is a 10, but now she's actually had to think about it, and she said 8.5. Okay. She said my actual score for this is an 8.5. At the very beginning, we had a comment from Aussie Aaron. He's given us his Herd's Choice, and he's given us his score. He says my score for this week's book is an easy 8. Dan's art is amazing, and the story too. Then we've also had a 7 out of 10 from Highland G. Thank you very much. We had a 7.5 from Kev, and we had an 8 out of 10 from Liam. He just says 8 out of 10 for me. There's not much else I can say that Scott didn't. He's my best friend. Of course, we think exactly the same about all of the things.
And it wasn't Phil's choice, so he scored it fairly this week.
Yeah. So with all of those scores in mind, that gives the Herd's average 7.8. Okay.
Awesome.
So we're already above Once and Future Volume 2 and 7.3. Add that 7.8 to Phil's 7, Shane's 7.5, my 8.5, and Martin's 7. That gives us a total of 7.6. So there we go. Where does it go on the leaderboard? Let's have a look. Is it top 10?
No.
Not top 10. To beat the top 10, now you need to get an 8 or higher. Thanos Wins is 8 out of 10. So where's it going to go in the rest of the leaderboard? What did I say? 7.6. Our first 7.6 of the whole season. So this goes at 9th place between Self-Storage and Batman TMNT.
Nice.
So
right. Technically still top 10.
Yeah, right. I have also done some other maths, okay, to see where this goes on the sequels leaderboard. Okay, so considering Volume 1 had 6.6, Volume 2 had 7.3, combining all those scores together with the score we've had today, so before today, Once and Future was a 7.2. I just spoiled it. 7.2. Hey! Once and Future before this, the first 12 volumes was 7 out of 10. So it's now gone up to 7.2. So on the sequels leaderboard, it
Ooh.
matches Monstrous and I Hate Fairyland. So Monstrous issues 1 to 12 and I Hate Fairyland 1 to 10. We now have Once and Future 1 to 18 coming in at 7.2. There we go.
Nice.
And there's the rest of the leaderboard as well. There we go.
Awesome. Now, is it time for the Herd's pick? Shall we see who has suggested a book, what they've suggested, and what we're going to read for next week?
Yes, sir. You keep talking while I set this up because
I
there's always a
will
lot to do.
read out. While you do that, I shall read out what we have picked. So we have Ozzy Aaron has said, I can't watch live again, but I do want to add my pick for next week's. Again, Superman, Batman, Volume 2, Supergirl of Krypton, please. Also his score, which we've had. Amy, her choice for next week is Volume 4. I'm guessing Once and Future, or is there a book called Volume 4 that I haven't heard of?
I think she likes Once and Future. It might be that.
A little bit. Tottenham Gaming, his Herd's choice is Punisher, King of Killers, Book 1. So not a sequel, but that's on the lead. That's going to be on there. Herd's choice from Liam will be Friday, Book 2. Not only a sequel, but a sequel to his last Herd's choice. So a double sequel from Liam. And Highland G's choice is It's a Bird by Seagull.
Nice.
That's been on the list quite a few times.
He wants that. He really
does. So fingers crossed. It's been on there for ages. Let's see.
So, right.
So I also say that Martin picked one because Martin doesn't have his own picks for this season since he joined us. We allowed him to have a pick for Herd's choice, and he's picked Something's Killing the Children, Volume 3, wasn't it?
Yep.
Yeah.
Let's see how it
There we
goes.
go. Okay, so I've shuffled it 5 times. We got everyone's name in, and we got Martin's as well. Here we go. Good luck.
Something good. Something good. Something good.
Got lots on here that's good.
Oh
No.
Oh my god. You just saw me shuffle it as well. I just shuffled it 5 times as always, and it's landed on Amy with Once and Future Volume 4. So we're going straight in next week to Once and
This
Future
will help
Volume
this
4.
sequel's leaderboard, won't it?
Or, well, we don't know. It might make it worse. Scott might put it in the top 10 for next week and then take it off again the week after. You know?
Imagine that. Imagine that. But there we go. Wow. Perfect. The last time Amy was on Herd's Choice was our very first ever Herd's Choice.
Yes.
Saga, wasn't it?
Yeah, Saga Volume 1. Yeah. So now she's coming on again. Hopefully she comes on again with Once and Future Volume 4. Wow. Don't worry, boys.
yes.
I'll deliver her book, her bookmark and her sticker and stuff like that. I'll cover the shipping. Don't worry about that. It won't be far. But yeah, there we go. Nice one.
But yes, that was Volume 3 of Once and Future. My pick. I picked that because I loved Volume 1 and 2 so much. And next week we'll be reading Volume 4, which is awesome. But coming up on the Nerd Herd channel this week, tomorrow, we have Kev's Draw Along, and he's going to be showing us how to draw Aquaman. And he's got a little snorkel. Oh my god, it's so adorable. That's awesome.
We still need a video on those chibis.
I just love his little character every single week. It's amazing. And on Friday, what time is it, Phil? You'll be doing What's All the Omnibus about then?
I will be. It'll be 9 p.m. That's the start time because a friend of the channel, Pete, has a live stream every single night, it seems. So I'm trying to arrange it around him. So at 9 p.m. start, we're with Martin be joining me, Highland G, I think, is hopefully joining me as well. And we're just going to talk about collected editions, hardcovers, and also I want to focus on DC and the DCU and what books we could hopefully we might see in the big screen going forward. So any suggestions, let me know, and I'll talk about them in the show too. That's this Friday.
I'll absolutely send you a list over. Amy is super excited that we picked her book. She says she will be there, and she says she's getting it into the top 10. So she's coming prepared. She's got high hopes for Volume 4 next week. So
I hope my prediction is true. I hope it is in the future, not far future, but I hope we get there.
You watch, it's just going to be 6 hours later, and the problem is solved because and it's and no one remembers what happened. It'll just be an amnesia thing. It's got to be like, that's a 1.
Yeah, stupid book.
But yes, thank you all for joining. I really do appreciate it if you're listening along on the podcast. If you ever listen on the podcast and you want to send a page in, or if you want to send a suggestion in, you can always do that, and we can add it to the next Herd's Choice along the way, and we can maybe get a podcast listener to pop on and join us one time. Someone who maybe can't join us live, we might be able to get something from that. But until then, there's only one more thing to do. Is that right? Have I done everything, Scott? Have I remembered everything?
Yes, sir.
Just double check. I've remembered everything. Okay, then everyone's free to get their waves out.
Bye. Bye, everyone. Love you.